every day. They think you have to go to the gym and pick up all the weights and throw them around. Honestly, I used to be like that. Movement is just challenging your body in any way or form that you can. Everyone knows that if you want things to change in your body, you need to make a change in your life.
Do you feel like you've changed so much to the point that that previous Tamara wouldn't have recognized the woman that you've become today?
You don't grow ever when you're comfortable. You don't grow when you're happy. You grow when you're miserable and when you're unhappy. There's so much in the world for me to know and to learn and to grow into, and I always want to be a forever student. I feel sometimes you just need to shock the system if you want to grow. The body responds the best to that. Without resistance training, there is no way that you can live an active and healthy life. And I don't care if you're lifting 5 kilos or you're lifting 100 kilos, but you need resistance to be able to function in your life.
When people think of Dr. Tamara, what do you hope they remember? Dr. Tamara, welcome.
Thank you.
How are you?
I'm great. It's almost the weekend. I had a wonderful week. I felt the full moon energy, by the way. I don't know if you felt it too.
It was intense.
Yeah, it was very intense. There's so much
Apparently
happening.
it was 10% closer.
Yeah.
This time around, which is so beautiful.
Yeah, it was amazing. But I felt the energy. I felt like, super in touch with the energy and things. So now everything's settled. So I'm great today.
Yeah, that's beautiful. You know, when sometimes in life you meet people and they make you feel sometimes a little bit more drained, sometimes a little bit more energetic. Yeah. And I remember the first time that I met you through a mutual friend of ours, and I had no idea what to expect. Like, really, I knew that you were the co-founder of DISC. I knew that you were into health and wellness and all of that, but I had no idea about like your energy, the depth that you had, about yourself. And I remember like leaving that conversation, and I even told that friend that we have in common, and I was just like, wow, she's a very solid woman.
Thank you.
Truly.
Thank you.
To the point that, I was thinking to myself, and it was a great reminder about just who I want to become and how I want to show up every day in my life.
Thank you so
Whatever
much.
interaction that I have, whether it's in a cafeteria, coffee shop, restaurant, supermarket, just whatever interaction that it is, I want to make that person feel a little bit better, a little bit more energized, even if it's just like 1%.
Yeah, I think we all have to have an impact on our environment, and I think about my community, and the most important thing is not making an impact in my world, but making an impact in my community. If I can inspire people to be better or to settle in more, or I know Dubai is also like, for a lot of people, I was born and raised here, so for a lot of people that are coming in, even though it changes so much, I feel like I'm so lucky to have my community, my comfort. I'm so rooted here. So I know for me, if I can make people feel more comfortable and make them feel like it's still a community, it's a big city, small city, small city with big energy. So if I can give people that kind of confidence to grow here, for me, that's everything.
And that is so beautiful. I am very intuitive. And so I don't come across people like that very often. Where did that come from? Like, when you look back at your journey, that before you started this business, when you look back at that previous version of yourself, do you feel like you've changed so much, like emotionally, mentally, professionally, even physically, to the point that that previous Tamara wouldn't have recognized like the woman that you've become today?
For sure. I mean, you grow a lot. You go through a lot of hardships, especially in entrepreneurship, a lot of challenges that make you stronger, and basically you develop thicker skin. But there's something that's always rooted in who I am that came from my parents, and definitely from my mother. She's very much about community, about giving, about loving, and she always says, like, when you give, you receive. And my parents are the most generous people ever, so I think I take that from them. Whenever they're like, just give help, till now they call me, they're like, can you hire this person, do you know who would they're just so helpful because they really believe in the concept of community. And I think it comes from their upbringing. They're both expats, they both left their countries as refugees, so they to form community, they made a lot of effort with people around them, and that's something that for me is always important. I don't believe in individual growth. I always believe in community growth. Like, you grow the most in the eyes of the other. If someone isn't going to give you feedback about your work, or someone isn't going to give you feedback about where you are in life, how are you going to grow?
Yeah,
that's how we are as human beings. We have to grow in a community. You're not going to live alone in the jungle. So some people choose to do that, but I don't believe that that's real growth.
Yeah, no, but also I think from a longevity perspective, we know that being in community, connecting with others, that is one of the main factors when you look at the blue zones.
100%.
The longest living people on earth, there's a big element here about community. Of course, movement and what you eat matters, but not feeling
it's the
isolated.
quality of your relationships, yeah. For sure. It's the quality of your relationships. I see that with my parents. They're, in their 70s and 80s, and they're happy here because they have so many friends around them and they make an effort within their community, even though you don't have the nature but I really feel like a lot of people are very individualistic, or, they very much like introverts, which is fine to be an introvert, but it's also important to connect because you learn from others, and you grow with others. So
Yes, and I think that is something that I've learned personally. Living 8 years in London, I found myself truly living a very isolated life. I myself, I'm very introverted, right? You might see me in events, I'm always talking, but that it drains me a lot,
yeah,
to the point that when I come back home, I need a few hours, half a day at the
yeah,
minimum, to really replenish my body. I
yeah.
don't get energy out of being around a lot of people. Having said that, I do get a lot of fulfillment if I'm connecting with the right people. And that is something that I
100%.
have learned, after moving to Dubai. I've been playing a lot of social sports and I've met so many people. I've met way more people in 3 months than I have in London living for 8 years.
Yeah,
And I think that is why so many people fall in love with Dubai,
yeah.
if you go out in the right environment. And so when you look back at the Tamara before disc, not just disc, but like, let's say 10 years back, how would you describe that younger Tamara?
I mean, definitely confident. I always knew what I wanted to do. I knew I had a gift of bringing people together. I know I had a gift of connecting to others and studying what I studied. I kind of fell into it. People always ask me, why did you become a chiropractor? I have no, like, it called me more than, I wanted to do some form of medicine. I loved movement and I loved movement medicines, and it aligned with me the most. But I didn't know this journey I was going to take. And I look at myself much more than a chiropractor now. I'm much more of a holistic chiropractor. I don't just align people's spine. I give them a lot of confidence in their body. I inspire them to move more. I inspire them to eat better. I inspire them to be more selfish with their well-being. Needless to say, I have to learn a lot from that because sometimes I'm not very selfish with myself. I'm selfish with movement. That for me is the biggest priority. But sometimes I definitely overexert or overgive or overdrain myself, and I'm learning how to put these boundaries. But I still think I was so very similar in terms of my, of course, when you're younger, you can push yourself a lot, a lot more,
Yeah.
and you don't need that much recovery. But I learned a lot more through that journey by experience. But I really think I was a lot of the same person. I knew what I loved, I knew what I didn't love, I knew my values, and that's something is just part of life and experiences. And of course, that's 10 years ago is when I started Disc. So I was definitely a lot more naive. And, I just thought business, happy go lucky, do what you love to the best of you can. Everything's going to work great. But it's obviously a lot more deeper and a lot more complex because you're dealing with people and their emotions and their expectations and all of that. So, I knew that we wanted to expand, but even now I've changed my mindset. I'm like, I don't want to grow anymore. I want to grow internally. Do I want to grow location wise? Maybe in a few years, but not until I fix not until, not I wouldn't say fix, but not until I grow my business where it is now to where I want it to be. So sometimes it's important to look within rather than look outside. And right now I'm really focusing on looking within and saying, like, what I have, how can I make it the best of what it can be? And that's where I am. Whereas before, I think I had my vision on, I want to be everywhere and I want to do everything. And I'm definitely not like that anymore.
And when did you start your career in chiropractic?
I started it 14 years ago. So yeah, 2000 and what was it? 2012.
And you started your
Actually, no,
training.
2010 in the US. And then I came back here 2012. And I started
Interesting.
this in 2015. So yeah,
You've been doing it way
a long
longer than I
time.
have.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
So for me, when I look back, when I started functional medicine and I stumbled across functional medicine, there was, at a very early stage, I had this realization that everything is connected. Your gut, your hormones, with your mood, your energy, everything. And so that realization not only changed the way that I look at health, but also changed the way that I look at just life in general, how
Yeah.
I show up every day, that my mindset, how everything is connected.
Yeah, 100%.
Was there anything that you learned, like at the early stages of your career studying chiropractic, that really changed your mindset as well? Something that, you made a click in your head and it just changed your perspective, not only
Yeah.
about health, but about everything in life?
Yeah, definitely the effect of, your mind on your body. I think that was one of the biggest things they don't really teach you in school. Like we learn how to manage pain. But when I started working with people from an early stage in my career, I think the first thing I realized, like I was so busy, but I was seeing patterns in people. Like some people would get better quicker, some wouldn't. And what we call psychosomatic pain, when people are coming in, they want to talk, people want to connect. And I realized most of my time I was spending basically making people feel better, not only physically, but like by counseling them and giving them the comfort that they need and giving them the confidence that they need. So that was where I really looked at the holistic care. It's not in just what I do, but when you touch someone, they start to trust you and they open up about their life and their family and their relationships and their emotional state and. So that's where I was like, wow, the body it's so complex, but it's also so simple. And for me, like exercise is the answer to everything. You're not going to the toilet, run. You're not doing this, like, and because it's worked for me. I've never had gut issues. Every time I feel like shit, I basically move, and then I feel so much better. If I'm feeling depressed, I go for a run. If I'm feeling like whatever, bad breakup, work it out. So it's for me, it's always been. I have never dove into functional medicine because I never felt I needed it, because
Yes.
movement has always been the answer to everything for me. And not,
I'm
different
surprised
movements.
you didn't become a personal trainer.
I should have, really, I should have. I feel like that would be my next like career in life, but
Maybe
I
in your
feel
next
like
life.
in my next life for sure, and I still train some people because I love optimizing movement, and I feel like when you know your body, you know yourself. People come to you and they're like, I have this, why do you have it? I don't know. I'm like, I don't know you. I don't know your story. I see you for half an hour, but I don't know how you sleep, how you eat, how you function, who you talk to, how you feel, how you really feel. So people know the answers within, and everything else falls into place once you figure out like the inner self. And that's one of the earliest things I learned in my career, is like no matter what I do to someone, I'm a fascia specialist, not just because I love how fascia moves and works, but also because I feel when you touch energy, we store energy in our body, and life is energy. And that's one of the things I learned from early on. I respect energy so much. I feel people's energy. Some people, I'm an extrovert, but sometimes I feel like I can't do this energy because it drains me.
Yes.
Back in the day, I used to allow all energies into my life until I
Yes.
felt like my cup was completely empty. Now I'm very energy sensitive, because energy is the foundation of life. And movement is energy. And that's why it's a way to release pain, emotion, suffering. We translate it from our body to external, to the external environment. So that's, I think, been my biggest learning, what I built my life and my foundation on. I don't want to get too crazy into other things. I just like to optimize people's performance and movement. And when I say performance, it doesn't mean that you become a super athlete. It means your performance in life. Waking up, getting out of bed every day, excited. I want you to get up and feel
Joy,
like,
proud of yourself.
exactly,
And
pride, purpose. And it
Yes.
doesn't need, sometimes it's so good to have ambition. I reach for the stars all the time, but sometimes it's exhausting, like
it can be very draining.
it can be draining. Like it's good, your ambition can also be getting up every day and feeling amazing. I want to have great relationships. I want to be present. I want connection. A lot of people used to tell me, you're not present, you're on your phone, you're everywhere, all the time. But I think it's for me learning now what I like and what I don't like. I know if I'm not present, it's because I'm not engaged. I'm not interested.
Yes.
And I've now pulled myself out of situations where I'm not interested. If I'm not interested in a situation, I'm out of it. If I notice that I'm distracted, I'm like, it's because I'm not interested in the situation. So learning that about yourself, I think all of these things, basically come back to feeling pain, because pain is an emotion.
For sure. And that just shows me how in touch you are with yourself. Have you always been like this, so in touch with yourself? Because I know that you've also spoken about how chiropractic chose you. You didn't necessarily choose the career, which is
Yeah.
very similar to my story as well. That took me a little bit longer. I had to get a law degree first.
Yeah.
But to be fair, I mean, I don't regret that either. I believe a lot in divine timing. If I had to go through that,
100%.
journey first to get to where I am today, then I will honor that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we are often told that we choose our careers, especially as we approach the teenage years.
But how do you know
feel
at that
so much
age? You're so
pressure.
young. You're so young to know what career you want to choose. You can have a sense of, I like money, I want to do finance. I love health, I want to do something in healthcare. But how do you know when you're 15 or 16 what you're gonna be for the rest of your life? It doesn't make sense to me. So when people tell me I regret, it makes me so sad, because I said regret nothing in life. Everything is an experience. Everything. I'm sure your law degree one day is going to come in handy when you're starting a product line, or when you're something, you know?
No, I mean, my law degree gave me a
Yeah.
beautiful foundation. I mean, and I
Exactly.
think if it wasn't for my law degree, I wouldn't have I wouldn't have those skills of really wanting to investigate my own health symptoms.
Yeah.
And so even when I have conversations with highly established and highly successful professionals in their field, most stories never come from a place of, oh yes, you know, so I was in school and I just decided to study this. There's usually a beautiful story behind it. And I feel like we've all we're all so busy, you know, focused on what we want, pleasing our parents, or what we think society, you know, expects from us, that we
Yeah.
kind of like disconnect from our own intuition. I feel like people now are so disconnected,
Yeah.
and I
100%.
truly believe that we are always being guided,
100%.
always being guided.
Yeah.
But I feel like we're all suppressing that. And I mean, I don't consider myself as someone that was born with a gift. I feel like we all have that capacity. We all have that ability to listen to ourselves and listen to that message. And I feel like that is something that you're doing so beautifully when you say, for example, chiropractic chose me.
Yeah. No,
Right?
I'm lucky. I've always had that connection with what I wanted to do, but I'm like you. I'm very much of a spiritual person. I believe in divine timing of everything, and in life, if you just open yourself to that, then it comes to you. So
And you can see it.
thank
You
you.
can see it in the eyes, you can see it on the skin, you can see it on the energy. I mean, I could tell from the first time that I sat with you. And I like to think of myself as someone who's truly obsessed in becoming her best version, you know, like truly, like whether it's through reading, listening to a podcast, having a conversation with someone like yourself, going to retreats, going to workshops. I'm really obsessed. And when you're in that journey, and when you're awake, and when you're conscious, I feel like you can tell when someone is also on that journey. You can identify that, right?
Yeah.
By the way that they speak, that the way that they listen, the way that they see the world. But if you haven't started that journey yet, you can't really differentiate. You know, you because you can't recognize, you can't see that depth in an individual. And I have a lot of family members, for example, which unfortunately, they're, I mean, fortunately or unfortunately, but they are, I cannot cut them out of my life.
Yeah.
And I can see how they're just so I want to shake them up.
No, I
Like
have it with my
truly
patients
shake them up. But I'm
all the
like, oh
time.
my
I
God.
know.
And I can tell that you've done
I know.
so much work on yourself.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious, was there any point in your life, like in the past, that triggered you to look
Yeah,
inwards?
for sure.
Or would you say that it was more of a gradual
No, there's definitely some
evolution?
things that happened that were a bit of like a wake up call, you know? And I think sometimes I've learned this obviously the very hard way. You have to hit rock bottom to grow, you know? You think that growth is all like fairies and butterflies, and you don't grow ever when you're comfortable. You don't grow when you're happy. You grow when you're miserable and when you're unhappy. And I've hit some points in my life where something happened that really shook me, and that's when I really found growth. And honestly, most of my growth came through sport, you know? And finding, for example, I started running when I was going through a really hard time in my life, and the running was what saved me, because I spent so much time with myself. That's a form of meditation for me, you know, without listening to music. I run just listening to my thoughts, and things come to you and things come to me. And that's why I love movement and sport so much, because I feel like in that time, that's when I really either block out the noise and listen to my own inner noise and try to fix that. I'm a movement meditative person, so I find that's really what really helped me grow and change. But also working with people that, you know, when you're open to these things, it comes to you, right? I met so many healers and therapists and people like me in the movement industry and other
Like attracts
doctors.
like.
Yeah, and we're forever students, right? Like I don't know anything to say I know everything. I know nothing. There's so much in the world for me to know and to learn and to grow into, and I know a lot in what I do, but there's so much I don't know. And I always want to be a forever student. And as a doctor means teacher, and for me, it's to take information from the people and information from things around me and to impart that onto my community and the people that are open to asking. So definitely a lot of things that happen. I won't speak about specific things, but I always say, like, you have to hit rock bottom, whether it's with your body or your mind, for you to say, I'm done with this. I'm ready to change.
100%. And I find that inner evolution so beautiful. But it's very interesting because when I look at people that are, going through that journey, it takes so much curiosity, it takes courage, it takes discipline, it takes willpower to sit with yourself, in your case, run, and look inwards,
Yeah.
and perhaps look at things that you don't really want to look at,
Yeah, of course.
but
Of
that is
course.
when growth happens.
Yeah, 100%.
And so, sure, you can get inspiration from people, sure, people can motivate you, but truly, it has to come from within.
Of course.
That curiosity, that knowingness, that it has to come from within.
Yeah.
And so I personally I just love connecting with people and just being around people that are like that. There's something so authentic about themselves, that depth, which reminds me of my real truth. And this is why I love surrounding myself with that community, and why I go to Ubud in Bali every 6 months and I surround myself with that community, because the feeling that I get of joy and of just like wholeness,
Yeah.
of truly pure
Yeah.
wholeness. I don't care about like what I'm wearing, my makeup, my hair. I'm like, when I'm in that state, I'm just so in tune, and I feel so whole.
Yeah.
And so grateful, to the point that like I cry, like
Yeah,
literally I cry, because I feel so grateful for life.
Yeah.
And that feeling is, I feel so fortunate to be able to tap into that feeling, because I know a lot of
100%.
people
100%.
never tap to that
And
feeling.
I think gratitude is one of the most important parts of health and healing, like being grateful for our body. I see a lot of people they're angry. They hold anger within them. They hold anger
Yes.
in their body. They hold resentment. They hold suffering. They have just negative mindset.
Yeah.
And I mean, we can all have a negative mindset here and there, but when it's really within you, you're going to hold it in your body, and it's going to manifest as pain and other things.
Even
And
disease.
yeah, but I also realize everyone's on their own journey. And even as a doctor, as much as I try to help people, sometimes I can help them only on a superficial level. So be it. Everyone.
And you have to accept that.
I have to accept it. Before, I wanted to fix everyone
Yes,
and everything.
me
And
too.
that's something that's changed along my journey. Now I'm just like, boundaries, like I can't fix you. I can
100%.
fix me, and I can show you a way, and hopefully I can inspire you to be a better
Yes,
version of
you can
yourself.
be the example.
But it's up to you, it's up to
Because
you.
as I said, it has to come from within.
It has
You
to come
need to
from
have that
within, yeah.
awakening. And unfortunately, it usually
Yeah.
takes crisis to have that awakening. Usually it takes a diagnosis,
Yeah.
a loss, an accident, some sort of wild event in your life
Yeah.
that wakes you up, which is unfortunate. I wish it wasn't that way.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. And what I find so inspiring about you is that you've kind of like translated your own self-awareness into your professional world. And usually people keep this very, very separate, but you have been able, I like to think of disc golf as this almost like physical manifestation of like your own philosophy of life, because you've built like this beautiful ecosystem, like truly not just the clinic, like a beautiful ecosystem. So like, where did this ambition come from, this commitment, this willpower to build something like that?
I think it's just the passion to help people. Like seeing the suffering of so many people is where all this came from. Like our vision and our mission has always been people-based, and creating an ecosystem where we can work together as doctors or as practitioners or as healers so that we can learn from each other. And, all the time I sit with my team, I'm like, work together, learn from each other, because there's only so much you can learn within the four walls of this, your treatment room. There's so much you can learn from each other, from growth, from even now, like anytime someone invites me to like, come to a biohacking conference, I'm like, I don't mean to sound cocky. I've seen it all. I've heard it all. I know it all. I don't want another bio. I want to go outside. I want to connect. I want to spend time with people I love. I want to have coffee in the sunshine. This is for me. Like,
Yes.
I've heard it all, I really believe and this is the foundation of chiropractic, is the innate ability of the body to heal itself. And that's where manual adjustments come from. Like when you adjust the spine, you're supposed to, you do stimulate the nervous system, and you create a, brain-body connection, and that's what makes pain go away, So it's the same. You're influencing movement receptors, you're affecting the nervous system, and the body has an innate ability to heal itself. So I also feel right now we're in this like wellness overdose in everything we do, but it is a big important, and I think this is where you see society as a whole is going through a big transformation. Especially here, we're so lucky to have that. When people come, they tell me I don't do anything. I'm like, in this environment, how? We live in one of the best cities in the world for movement and fitness, and every corner there's a gym or a wellness space or a studio, and you have to be a
The
little bit
running clubs that you
woke.
have,
Yeah,
the
you have
paddle
to.
socials.
You have so much exposure. Like, it doesn't make sense to me when people do nothing or they're suffering in some way. So I think
it's just a personal choice, really.
It is a personal choice. It's a personal choice, and you know, this is where a lot of this came from for me, like learning that we have the ability to heal ourselves, and if I can impart this information onto my community, then I can build something beautiful, and I can create. And don't get me wrong, it's not easy. You know, every day we have our struggles, trying to, you know, unfortunately, anything you have to monetize, like healthcare, becomes difficult. We deal with insurance companies; it's a pain in the butt. You know, we deal with so many things that I wish healthcare can be free because everyone deserves it, but at the end of the day, we also need to survive and live. So trying to find
an energy exchange.
Yeah,
at the
it's
end
an
of the
energy
day.
exchange.
And I feel like the principle of the body has an innate capacity to heal itself is also what I always tell my clients. Even though I practice functional medicine, it's the same concept.
Yeah.
I am not healing anyone. I'm a facilitator. What I do is I remove the toxicities.
Yeah.
And then I replace the nutrient deficiencies.
100%.
That's all I do. I am not doing anything else.
Yeah.
And when you do that to the body has so much innate wisdom.
Exactly.
That it can really, you can grow a new body.
100%. And if you look at every organ or tissue in your body has a regenerative power and capacity. Different timelines. Some take a week, some take 4 months, you know? But every organ and tissue and system in your body has regenerative capabilities. So just believing in that, slowing down a bit, allowing your body to regenerate. And even as doctors, like, unless you're a surgeon, we're not doing anything. All we're doing is pushing people in the right direction. You know, we're not doing magic. We're just, you know, removing blockages, removing mental blockages and physical blockages, and teaching people, well, if you do this, your body's going to function much better. If you do that, your body's going to function much better. If you prioritize your sleep, if you prioritize hydration, all of that. So it's very simple and it's very beautiful, but I really hope our impact can be as more widespread than I can ever dream of.
100%. And did you find it difficult at the beginning when you were having those conversations before, like with your co-founders, that, you know, we live in a society that we're trained that every single system of the body needs to be treated by different professionals. Did you find any, like, what were those conversations like at the beginning?
Honestly, they were all my patients. So nobody ever, they believed in it. They knew, they felt, they understood.
That integrated approach.
Yeah, very much understood. It's just still now trying to educate people, because people, when pain's gone, they're done. You know, they're like, I'm not in pain, I don't care. But there's always ways to optimize. And I look at what we do as like preventive. This is an investment in your body in the future. This is real insurance. You know, when you invest in all of these systems from now, you know how you're functioning physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, then you're going to have a pathway to success with your body and your mind. So just, it's more about educating the community. These conversations, this is why for me it always came so naturally, because we were always so aligned with what we do, and I don't think we could have grown the way we did if we weren't aligned. But it's about re-drilling it in people, right? Because we get tired. We work, you know, we're at work from 8 a.m. till 7 p.m. and you lose sometimes the system, you know, we become like robotic, and you need to always be woken up and say, hey, don't forget that you need to integrate, because it's easy to do the same thing again and again.
You have to purposely plant those seeds.
Exactly.
Every single morning or every single afternoon, whatever works for you, but you need to be doing something proactively every single day. Otherwise, you just end up running a program, 100%. Like most people, you know, 90+%.
And I'm a big believer of shocking the system, you know, whether it's with your food, whether it's with your exercise, whether it's with the way you drive to work and going home. Like, it's important to always instill change, because as humans, it's easy for us to get used to something, and we like homeostasis. We like balance, right? And balance is important. But I feel sometimes you just need to shock the system if you want to grow. The body responds the best to that. So the body's, you know, even when you're training, if you're running 5K every day, one day your body's going to get used to it. You stop burning fat the way you used to. So you go from running a slow 5K every day to doing what we call a tempo run, or you go to doing intervals. Shocking the system is how the body grows. And that's how I think it's really important that when it comes to business, when it comes to your physical health, always putting in new stimulus. And that's you know, that's where I see ourselves growing.
Yeah, absolutely. And for me, something that has been very difficult was the shift from being just a practitioner, because back then when I started, I was simply a practitioner working with many clients on a one-to-one basis, and then building this business and becoming, you know, a leader and hiring staff. That for me has not been a walk on, you know, on the road. It has been very, very, very difficult. So I'm just wondering, how was that experience for you? Was it also
Yeah,
challenging?
like a train hitting a wall. Yeah, because again, you deal with people and you deal with their emotions and their stories and their backgrounds, and it's hard to please everyone. I think my success is in the success of the people around me. But at different stages of life, you have different people, and I think before I used to be so emotional about it, especially when people left. It was like a breakup every time. I'm
Me
like
too.
so
You get
many
so
breakups and
attached to people.
like so attached to people. They're your family. They become your family. They're people you see every single day. I
Yes.
see them more than my family. I'm at work at least 8-9 hours a day. So that's the hardest thing. But you learn that, and if you want a business to grow, the business has to evolve. And at every stage of a business, you have to find what's right for you, and also what's right for them. And sometimes people just don't align with your vision, and that's
100%.
okay.
Maybe that person worked last year, but now your business is at a different phase and you're
Yeah.
heading towards a different direction. And now that person is not aligned with that vision
Yeah.
anymore, and you have to shift.
And
And
I've
that's
only, I think, come
okay.
with that realization and that comfort with that idea only maybe this year. Like I really struggled with it for like 10 years. It's always been for me like suffering when people leave or they change, or it's like making you feel almost like you're not good enough. But I worked on that trigger. I'm like, this has nothing to do with me. I know they love me as a person and I love them as people, but the environment maybe not doesn't work for them right now, And at the end of the day, like work is work. We have to put money on the table. You have to support your family, you're this, you're that. So it's not easy, but I've learned not to take anything personally in that.
I was going
And
to mention that that's what I've
it's
learned as
part of
well.
growth. It's part of life. One day we're going to look back and laugh at the whole process. Life is a beautiful journey. I think what's important is that we serve our purpose and our mission, which is helping people. And I want to have the people around me that have the same values and mission. And if somebody doesn't align with that, then God bless them. And, I wish you all the best in your life and move on. It's just part of the journey. And I think the most important thing in life, and one of the things I worked on spiritually, is non-attachment. And, I always argue with my mom about this. I'm like, you cannot be attached to anyone or anything, or because life, things come and go. The only thing you can have in life is your body. And that's why I value my body, again, going back to
It's
my
your
physical
temple.
health, because this is your temple. This is the only thing that you will have from the day you're born to the day you die. Everything else is not permanent. So this is the one thing you have to give and love, and you have to be a little selfish, at least with your well-being. Sometimes I think maybe we are too selfish in our day and age. We forget about the importance of community. And I was reading an article 2 days ago about, we're so much about boundary setting. And sometimes even when you're tired, like you still have to give the people around you something, even if it comes at the expense of your, health, because this is what community is about. We're too much now. I think we kind of crossed that border into setting boundaries a bit too much. It's important to find a middle ground with that. But I really think
That is very interesting because that is something that I have personally been trying a lot as well. Moving to Dubai has meant that I'm also living with family.
Yeah.
I'm no longer living by myself. I've been living by myself since I was 16, and then suddenly being in an environment with so many people. And now I have to be a little bit less selfish. I have to do things for the kids. I have to sacrifice perhaps my sleep or perhaps certain healthy habits. And I was really
100%.
struggling with that at the beginning, like really big time. But I've learned that there's so much value in
There's
that
so
as
much
well,
value, and
of
there's so much
giving back,
fulfillment.
so much
So much
fulfillment.
fulfillment. And family is the most important thing in the world, whether it's your blood family or people that you build as family. I'd say my closest people to me are not even my blood family. They're people that have become family over the years. But it's obviously by putting in that effort and putting in that time. And as much as we're about boundary setting, it's important also. My mom tells me, your generation, you're too selfish, whereas their generation, they were too selfless.
That is true.
But it's about finding that middle ground
That is
where
true.
finding the value in connection, finding the value in, like even when you're tired, putting in that effort for yourself and for others is really, really important.
I think doing things without expecting anything in return.
100%.
Not everything in life needs to be transactional.
100%. And this is all the foundations of wellness and longevity. These are the things for me that I value much more than an infrared sauna or like a drip. Like these are the things that you want to live long. You have to surround yourself by people you love and people who love you. You have to surround yourself with community, people who push you, people who drive you, people who challenge you. Otherwise, stress, people I'm so stressed. I'm like, stress is good for you. Stress is what makes you grow, and not stress to the point that you're not sleeping and you're not eating. But little bit of stress, like we need it as humans, as animals. Stress is what makes you fight. stress is also what makes you flight. So it's important to have that in your life. You can't just be living in la la land and having zero stress at all.
Absolutely. Our ancestors had plenty of stress.
Exactly.
Right? That is how we survived as a species.
Exactly.
So it's part of our human nature. That's how we evolved.
Exactly. Stress is part of survival. So I think it's something that's very important, whether you inflict it on yourself through exercise or by your environment, but it's learning how to like kind of tune off your mind. Like I get super stressed and I go home at 7, I'm like, I'm done. I just turn that off. Like now I'm in my sanctuary and I'm just going to live my best life and I don't care about anything else. So take it as it is.
Yeah. And speaking about leadership, I feel like us as practitioners, but also running businesses, we have this, as holistic practitioners, our job is also to lead our clients, our community, when it comes to taking back control of their health and taking ownership of their body. And I know that movement is a huge part of it. And I also know that, as you mentioned, for you, movement is everything. Movement is life for you.
Yeah.
So if you had to define what movement means to you, how would you define it?
I love that question. Some people, when I say you have to move every day, they think you have to go to the gym and pick up all the weights and throw them around. And honestly, I used to be like that. I'm not even like that anymore. I do love that a little bit, but movement is just challenging your body in any way or form that you can, other than sitting behind the desk and looking at your phone and looking at a computer, going out for a walk, connecting with your body, whether you do yoga or you do Pilates or you want to play football or you want to play basketball or you want to dance, movement is energy. So as long as you are putting your body and your joints through different stimulus, this is movement for me. Movement doesn't need to be complicated. You can make it complicated if you're performing for something or you're training for something, but movement is so simple. You can get on a bike and go for a ride. You can walk to the grocery store. But as humans, we're born to move. We're made to move. And we're made to challenge our being. Otherwise, we don't evolve.
Yeah.
So.
And I feel like there are so many preconceptions as to what exercise needs to look like. And that's why most people don't exercise, because they feel like exercise is going to the gym, staring yourself at the mirror, counting the reps, and just doing that. And for me, that's what I love, because I was always exposed to that environment. 100%. When I was 5 years old, I was in the gym, not lifting weights. I was just, playing with the treadmill, watching my mom train. But I was exposed to that from a very young age. So it's part of my DNA. Yeah. And if I don't lift weights, it really affects my mood.
100%.
So that's what works for me. But it doesn't mean that you need to do that to move your body.
No, and a lot of people who do go to the gym here end up sitting for 10 hours a day after that. So I don't even consider those active people. Because active people are people that move throughout the day. So even if you have a desk job, just getting up, moving, you have a call, walk and call. Unfortunately here, sometimes 6 months out of the year, you can't really walk outside. But if you can, I tell people, get a walking pad, get a treadmill.
I go to the beach in the summer.
Yeah, me
here
too.
In Dubai.
Me too. I love it. Early morning. I love to sweat,
Me too.
I love I get a cold bottle of water and I love that feeling. I just walk.
Same.
I do low intensity stuff and I sweat and it's such a good feeling. So, movement doesn't need to be complicated. It can be walking up and down the stairs 10 times, but it's about connecting to your body. When you feel things, then you have a different kind of sense of awareness. And a lot of people, when I tell them like activate your glutes, they're like, huh? They don't know how to squeeze their glutes, squeeze your calf. They have no brain body connection. And that's what, for me, what I call mindfulness. Mindfulness is feeling and knowing your body and being in touch or being intuitive. So through any kind of movement, you learn that, whether you're picking up a box to put it overhead, but do not stay stationary. That's movement for me.
I think so many people underestimate the power of movement. I was reading an article the other day, which they were speaking about how now science shows us that I think it was the longer that you stay still for, I think 10% of time, as it increases in terms of if you're still and not moving your body, you also get the same increase in mortality.
Yeah.
Just 10%.
And people don't they're like, why?
So movement is truly medicine.
And if you look at the science behind that, it's because when you move, you have better lymphatic drainage. So it removes toxins for your body. You have more blood flow. So blood is the food of muscles and the food of tissue. So when you're sitting, you're not getting that pumping. And so I see all these people spending all this money on lymphatic drainage massages. To be honest, like, an hour of movement equals 24 hours of regular lymphatic drainage. You go out for an hour and you run or you jump. this 1 hour is equivalent to your body circulating the lymph for 24 hours. So that's why we tell people to move, not because we want you to look a certain way or to feel, well, it's obviously to feel a certain way, but from a scientific perspective, it's how we circulate toxins within our body, how we release toxins from our body, how we feed the muscles with blood to get that circulation so that we actually function. That's where it comes from a scientific perspective. It's not because I want you to look a certain way, obviously also for weight control and to regulate your digestive system. But if you're not stimulating your body, how are all your organs going to function?
100%. But as a chiropractor yourself, do you encourage people to, when it comes to weight training and building muscle?
100% for every single person, especially for women, because of the ways our hormones change as we age, and the less we move and the less we weight train, the less muscle mass, the less skeletal stability. Everything we do is the spine and the skeleton. So if you want to stabilize the spine, it has to do with the muscles. The muscles are the building blocks of your body. So without resistance training, there is no way that you can live an active and healthy life for the rest of your life. And this is stuff that we know now. It's been proven scientifically, the importance of muscle mass and longevity.
So much.
For men and women. So for me, it's the most important thing in the world, you know? And I don't care if you're lifting 5 kilos or you're lifting 100 kilos, but you need resistance to be able to function in your life.
And what would you say to someone that really hates the gym and they hate going to that gym floor and lifting weights?
Find a way for it to be functional. You don't have to go to the gym. Maybe go outside and you can pick up blocks and move them, you know, or you can do something that's a little bit more creative or functional, but you need resistance as a person. You need to push, you need to pull, you need to drag, so the body doesn't change and the muscles don't change if they're not have that stimulation and that load on them. You can do explosive stuff, you know. So I have people that don't like to go to the gym, but they're sprinters. Explosive stuff, running up and down stairs, that teaches you how to basically increase your heart rate, and that also helps with your muscle development. So find a way, you know, it's not that complicated. You don't have to go to the gym, but you can find an environment that stimulates you where you feel it's fun, it's creative. For a lot of people, they don't like it because they're scared, they're intimidated, but everybody starts from zero.
There's so much fear behind it.
There's so much fear behind it.
And I know that you also talk a lot about how sometimes when you're in pain, people are so scared of exercising, when in reality, I feel like movement will help you so much with your recovery.
Even for people with severe disc herniations, we rehab them through movement. We never, like this old theory of I'm in pain, bed rest. Like the only time you should be in bed rest if you have something like really, really, really wrong with you, like you're bleeding or you have something broken and you can't walk. That's the only time, you know. And even with that, you have to stimulate the body to allow the bone to heal, to allow the muscle to heal, to allow the tissue to heal. So that kind of old school philosophy is completely out the window.
Yes, I totally agree with that. Do you ever get people walking in your clinic looking for quick fixes?
Everyone. 99.9% of people, because pain is not a nice emotion, right? You don't want to be living in pain. But I think most people, when they get out of pain, they realize, oh, wow, like I never want to feel that feeling again. It's not a nice feeling. And therefore, I'm willing to work on myself a little bit more. But we do have the people that come in every time with the same thing again and again. And for a lot of people, I don't blame them, right? Our lifestyle is difficult. We're forced to sit all day. A lot of people are forced to drive long hours, forced to sit behind computers. But I think they start to learn that, you know, you can do little things, you know, foam roll at home, do a 20-minute workout at home with your family, you know.
Or put an alarm on your phone if you have a desk job.
Exactly.
Every 30 minutes, literally just walk around for 5 minutes.
Exactly, to feel a lot better. So yes, most of us look for quick fixes. I look for quick fixes, you know, when I'm in pain, and it's completely normal. But I think it's about educating people, and everyone knows that if you want things to change in your body, you need to make a change in your life. So when I tell people, when they come in, they're like, I'm in so much pain. I'm like, that's a great thing. Your body's talking to you. Pain is a signal from the body. It's the body's sign of communication. Now, what do you do about it? And what is it saying? So let's figure out first what it's saying. How do we fix it? And how do we prevent this from ever happening? And pain is basically, you just need to rewire your brain to tell your brain, I'm safe. And it turns off the pain receptors. Exactly.
Yeah, for me, the same thing. Like, I am so connected with my body, and very often I get symptoms and I know exactly what my body is trying to tell me. Like sometimes I start to get eye twitches and no, it's not a magnesium deficiency or calcium or iron, because I'm always on top of my minerals. I know my body is telling me slow down. Slow down. Sometimes I get pain in my right shoulder. I know that I need to tap more into my feminine energy. My body is always talking to me. And as I said, I was not born with any gift. We all have that ability to truly connect with our bodies. And I find so beautiful what you do, that you're truly encouraging people to, hey, listen, your body is talking to you. Pain is a good thing. Stress is a good thing. You're really changing people's mindset. And it's so beautiful. Do you train your staff as well to talk in that language?
Always, always. That's always the language that I speak in. It's just to at least trigger awareness for people, because maybe I don't create that much of an impact, but when they have this in the back of their head, every time they do something, they're like, oh wait, like their intuition kind of starts to switch on, or they're exposed to different environments and they start to feel it. And look at the older generations. They always had some kind of naturopathic medicine, or it was always around. So people are always know that there's a natural way to heal yourself. But I think now with the way we live, and again, I'm simplifying a lot of pain, because some pain can be really serious and it can be, a lot deeper than just being physical. Now, I'm not meaning to simplify it. Some people, especially if pain is chronic and nothing you do is changing it, then there can be a systemic problem. And a bigger problem. But I really believe everything is linked to each other, and everything comes from an emotional environment, or everything comes from even some things like, sometimes you look at children, you're like, why are they sick? You see little kids, that's something I'll never understand. And why is a 3-year-old, have a brain tumor? It's that for me, I have zero explanation. I'm like, are they inheriting emotion from their parents? Is there something their parents didn't work on that they need? And I'm sure there is some kind of link. Science has never proved that. But because
there isn't an objective answer to that.
100%. But because I believe in energy so much, I always think there must be something from that previous. There must be some trauma that was passed on through the genetics of children, and that's why when I see that, I'm like, okay, I need to work on myself to the best ability that I can, so I don't pass anything on to the next generation. I want to heal myself so I can heal the people around me, because again, energy is transferable. So.
Absolutely. And as you mentioned, that's something that we already know. It's ancient medicine. Even when you look at functional medicine, yes, functional medicine is the future of health, but at the same time, functional medicine is rooted in ancient wisdom.
Yes.
So it's almost like a full circle and coming back to what we always knew.
Yeah,
so
100%.
For that person who might be listening to this podcast and or perhaps watching, they are not feeling well, they're not sleeping properly, they're in pain, they're depressed, they just don't feel like their best self. What would you say to that person, like the 5 things for them to get started, that they can get started straight away, that can really move the needle?
First of all, coming back to spirituality, which is the foundation of energy, have faith. Have faith that everything can change. Nothing is permanent in life. So even if you're in pain, it's not something you have to live with forever. So
don't get attached to your pain.
Don't be attached to your pain. Don't let it define you. But if you really believe in something or a system, which is mainly yourself, you know that that's going to change. Number 2, get help. Sometimes we don't have the answers, but we need people around us to inspire us. So no matter who you see, like seek the answers to the questions that you have. Number 3, move. Move in some way that makes you feel good. Some movement may not feel good. Some movement may feel great. So move in ways that make you feel great. Connect to others around you, to your community. Share your story. You're not alone. A lot of us, we like to internalize things and really isolate ourselves, but community is the most important thing when it comes to healing. And the last thing I think is love your body. Love yourself, love your body. Understand how lucky we are to be here. If you look at the statistics of a sperm and an egg fertilizing, I think it's like, I don't know, 1 in a trillion. So we're all so lucky to be here, and like have faith in you as a person and the things that you're capable in this world, and stop comparing yourself to other people. We're all on our own journey. And I think if you do the best you can, this world is going to be incredible for you. You're going to have a beautiful journey, but stop comparing your journey to others, because you don't know the reality of how other people live. Exactly.
That is so beautiful.
So yeah.
Before we wrap up, I'm going to ask you some 5 quick questions. Don't overthink it. Just say the first thing that comes to mind. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Beautiful. What is one thing that you have to do every single morning to feel grounded?
Have my coffee.
Oh, wow. I was not expecting that.
So I'm not really grounded by wake up, but I'm like, I'm alive. I need my espresso.
What do you do on a daily basis to plant those seeds?
Definitely work out, move in some way or form. I jump out of bed and it's the first thing I do in the morning. If I don't do it in the morning, I don't feel rooted. I don't feel planted. I don't
So
feel.
You always move your body before you get to work?
First thing in the morning, yeah. Even sometimes before I eat, unless I'm doing something intense, I have a little bite. But you generally like empty stomach, just go out there, especially outdoors. Look at the sun, especially early morning.
Diurnal rhythm, that's so key as well.
It's so important for me, and it's time for myself, time away from my phone. It's me time. And that's, my self-love time.
I love that. Fill your cup before you start filling others'
100%.
cups.
I wish I was the person that gets up and journals. I just don't have the time. I just get up,
Yes.
chug my espresso, and then I'm out the door.
But listen, a lot of those people who journal and meditate, you speak to them and they're still really miserable people. So I don't think necessarily journaling, and it doesn't have to be that way.
Yes, it doesn't have to be that way. No, because some people say you need that slowness. For me, the slowness is my time in the car on the way to work. I just find that, I barely listen to music anymore. I just sit in stillness, and that's when I find my slowness.
Yeah, I feel like you need to find out what works for you and make it work for you, right? Okay, second question. What is one thing life has been teaching you lately? I'm sure many things, but if you had to pick one,
there's always an answer. Like, why worry? That's probably the biggest thing. Like now, sometimes things happen and I'm like, oh my God. I used to be like a super stress case and I'm like, it's always gonna work out. Why worry?
Have that faith.
Have that faith. Yeah. It's okay. There's an answer to everything. Just be connected to God and to yourself, and it's gonna work out. Just
when you know you're being guided, you can sit with patience.
Yeah, 100%.
Movement or stillness, if you could only pick one forever.
You know what I'm gonna say. Movement forever.
I just wanted to
movement
make sure.
till I drop.
I love that. One wellness myth or trend you wish people would finally let go of.
One wellness trend that, I don't know, I kind of like everything. Like I really do. I love a little bit of everything. I just say don't do anything that puts extra stress on your body. You don't have to ice bath. You don't have to go to the sauna. You don't, but those are trends. But is sunlight important for you? Is heat important for you? Of course, but I say just don't follow trends. If it works for you and you can fit it into your schedule, 100% do it. I love all the trends. I am that girl who's going to drink celery juice in the morning. I love my matcha. I love, and trends come up because they're great. But for me, it's, if you can fit it into your routine, great. I have a friend, he wakes up in the morning, he does his hyperbaric chamber and he sits in the sauna. He has the time for it. God bless you. I wish I had the time for that. But don't add anything to your life which adds stress to you.
I love that answer.
Yeah, we already have so much stress on our plate. We don't need to add we need to add more things that bring joy.
That ground us.
Yeah.
Right? That give us that energy,
peace.
that fulfillment, the peace, the inner peace. That's
exactly.
it. Love it. And last question. When people think of Dr. Tamara, what do you hope they remember?
I definitely hope that they feel what you said when we first started this conversation. I want them to always think like, she made my life a bit better. She definitely can hear me out, supported me. I want them to leave feeling, I feel lighter.
And I can be a testament to that.
Thank you so much.
Because you had no idea who I was.
Thank you so much.
And you were honestly like, you made me feel like that.
Thank you so much. That's what I want. I want people to always leave feeling a bit more inspired when they meet me. So
beautiful. Well, Tamara, this was incredible.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure. Always so nice to connect.
Likewise.
I wish you all the best.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.